So welcome everybody. It is 6 June 2022 and we have convened today for the first session of the Ex Libris Knowledge Days 2022. And the first topic is the new and improved Alma overlap analysis tool. Before we begin, let's just take a look here just so everybody is with us. This is the Knowledge Days page right here. I'm going to send this out in the chat. We've got a lot of exciting sessions planned here. Here we are today on June 6th with the new and improved overlap analysis tool. Tomorrow, June 7th, we've got the resource sharing, item availability calculation, and item level requests. June 7, 8, and 9, a 3-time session, fiscal period closure. Then we've got what are cloud apps and how to use them in Alma, learning affordability and Leganto, and recent developments in Primo V. So you're all cordially invited to come to this page to sign up. I'm going to send everybody the chat right there. Those of you watching the recording, just take a look for Ex Libris Knowledge Days 2022 on Google, and I'm quite sure you'll get there. I want to also remind everybody of this page, the Education and Knowledge Webinars page. This contains all of the Global Knowledge Delivery webinars. We've got a upcoming tab, we've got an on-demand tab with all of the recordings, and we've got a filter by product. And also, as you may know, we've got a YouTube channel for Ex Libris Limited. And on the YouTube channel, you can also search for all of our recordings. And without further ado, let's jump right in here. And on the Knowledge Days page, one more thing, you can download a PowerPoint, which we're going to look at briefly today. We're going to be going back and forth between the PowerPoint and the actual Alma. And we've also got a link to the online help here, working with overlap analysis, working with overlap and collection analysis. So here you can find the related material. And without further ado, let's begin. First, we're going to look at the PowerPoint just to see what are we talking about. What is this new and improved Alma overlap analysis tool? What is its purpose? And then we're going to show it in Alma. So, an introduction. The whole goal of this overlap analysis tool is to achieve better collection development analysis. When we say collection development, there's a lot of aspects to collection development. One aspect is the usage of the material that the institution purchases. And the other aspect is when we're talking about electronic collections, verifying that we're not ordering the same resources multiple times in different collections. As you know, an electronic collection will contain multiple titles, and in many cases, the same title may be purchased by 4, 5, 6 in 6 different electronic collections. So the goal of this tool is to check. I don't want to get ahead of myself because we're going to be talking about specifics, but in general, it's to check if I am purchasing a new electronic collection or considering canceling a current electronic collection, how many and what percentage of the titles in that collection are unique. I might be purchasing a new electronic collection that has 500 portfolios and I find out that I already have 450 of them. For example, that doesn't mean maybe we don't need it. Maybe those other 50 unique ones are very important, but at least I know where we have the overlap. So that's what the tool does, and we're going to look at some very specific use cases. This was developed, by the way, together with a user group, so we got a lot of feedback. So this is really reflecting the activities that are done in the library. So there's a couple of things which were added. We had an overlap and analysis, overlap collection tool in the past, but we redid the interface added new functionality. So what did we add here? The ability to select a community zone collection as a source for comparison. So we can compare what we've got in our own repository with what's in the community zone. And we can compare with what we have in our repository with the entire institution zone or just part of the institution zone. And we're going to see examples of this. There's 3 specific use cases, and we're going to do all 3 of these use cases today live. The first use case is the institution is considering purchasing. I just want to answer that chat that came in, and all of the chats will be anonymous, so feel free to send in whatever you like. Someone says, are we talking about title overlap or title holdings overlap? We're talking also about the holdings, because we're able to check, we'll see in a moment when we start doing it, we're able to check not only does the same title exist, but does the same coverage exist? Is it a partial overlap or a complete overlap? When we say a complete overlap, the same title will exist in multiple collections with the same coverage from year 1947 to year 1971, for example. But we're getting a little ahead of ourselves, but good question, and sorry I didn't mention that already. Okay, let's go on. So use case 1, the institution is considering purchasing an electronic collection. And the electronic collection that they're considering purchasing is in the community zone. So before they purchase or consider purchasing the collection from the community zone, they want to check what in that collection do I not already have and what do I already have. If I already have 99% of it, maybe I don't want it. Or maybe I do. So we have on the left here the e-resources in the entire institution zone. Then we have the e-resources, the potential collection that the institution is considering buying in the community zone. What is the overlap? That's the first use case. Then we have another use case 2, which we can really divide into 2 different use cases, 2 sub-use cases, we'll call them. So here the institution already purchased an electronic collection. They already have it for X years, and now they're considering canceling it. So before they cancel it, they want to know, okay, if I get rid of this electronic collection, how many titles am I really losing? Maybe I already have 75% of them from other collections, maybe not. So that in that case, they can either compare with all of the institution zone or with a subset of the institution zone. That would be use case 2. And here they're going to check the overlap with a subset. One moment, please. Here we go. With a subset of other titles already owned. So here we're looking at e-resources in a subset of the institution zone. They say, okay, I want to compare it with 6 of these collections that I already have. Collection A, I'm considering canceling. Collection B, C, D, E, F, and G, I want to see what titles are already in those collections and in the one I'm considering canceling. All of this will become more clear as we do our very specific use cases. And then we have use case 3. This is one people have been asking for since probably the very first day of Alma, back in summer of 2012 when our first institution went live. It's hard to believe. It's going to be 10 years pretty soon. Next month, it's going to be 10 years since the first Alma institution went live. So since then, people have been wanting to take an input file with a title and an identifier and check in this file, what do I already have in the institution? And that's what this does, a comparison of a list of titles to all of the institution zones. So the vendor gives the institution a list, or the institution downloads a list from the site of the vendor with the ISSNs, for example, and the titles, and the institution wants to compare what is in that input file with what we already have in the institution. Okay, how do we get to the overlap analysis? And now we're going to jump into Alma. Thank you, everybody, for your patience while we went through those slides. I know the slides can get a little boring sometime, but now we're back in Alma. So I'm in a standard Alma June release, nothing of a special development environment, not something that has features that aren't available yet to the public. Standard June release, just like the releases that you have now. And I'm in the Alma menu. I'm not in the configuration menu. I'm in the Alma menu. And from here, we go to Resources, Advanced Tools, Overlap, and Collection Analysis. That's how we access it. Resources, Advanced Tools, Overlap, and Collection Analysis. By the way, I will point out here that if you ever don't know where in the menu something exists, you can always come click the Alma right here, search and manage Alma links, and just start typing, and you'll get everything. So let's get it from there as well. Same thing. Okay, so this is the overlap and collection analysis page. What we see here are reports which have already run. These were run June 5th, for example. This was last night, just making sure it all worked before the session. And of course, it did all work. So these are previous runs, and we're going to create a new run from here, new analysis. I'm clicking the new analysis on the top right here. And there's two types of new analyses. One is to compare collections, the first one, and the other one is lookup of titles. So the first one compares collections either institution zone to institution zone or network zone to institution zone. The second option, the lookup titles, takes an input file and loads it. And we're going to be doing that now. So let's now run the first use case. I'm just going to go back here to the, let me close that one. I'm going to go back here to the WebEx just to make sure people are seeing me and everything's good. Let's go into the chat here. Okay, no more chats came in since that last one. And let me just do a confirmation that everybody still hears me okay. Just send in on the chat, yes, we're still with you, because it's been pretty quiet. I want to make sure that's not because people lost me. Anybody still with me there? Okay, people are telling me they hear me. Great. Okay, and we got 29 participants now. That's nice. Okay, so let's do now the first example. So let's pop into the PowerPoint to get the first example, then we're going to run it in Alma. So this is use case one where we're considering purchasing one electronic collection in the community zone. We're considering purchasing this one here, Elsevier Science Direct eBooks Referex Miscellaneous. Before we come and purchase it, we want to see what from this collection will we really be gaining if we purchase it. So we're going to see what already exists in the institution and what is unique, does not already exist in the institution. So we're going to run it. We're going to compare collection. Let's just go run it already. Okay, so we'll compare collections. And first thing, we're going to give it a name. So I'll put in the name here. By default, it will say new report in the time you ran it. And I'm going to call this morning because we're doing another session this evening. And I'm going to call this use case 1. Okay, my description, I'll put in a better description. Considering purchasing this from CZ. So we're considering purchasing that. And now choose collection source for which you want to evaluate overlap. So the source, that's which one am I considering purchasing, which one am I considering canceling. I'm going to choose it. So I clicked there. Now I can do a search. So I'll put in the name, and I want to search, in this case, the community zone. So I'm doing community. And now we're searching the community zone for this electronic collection, which we're considering purchasing. And we find it, and we see that it has 384 portfolios, and select. So now I've selected the source, the electronic collection from the community zone. And now what do I want to compare it with? Here's my options. Compare with collections from. So I can compare it with selected collections from the institution zone, which we're not going to do right now. I can compare it with selected collections from the community zone, or with the entire institution zone. And that's what I want to do now. Compare it with the entire institution zone. Excuse me one moment. We'll compare it with the entire institution zone, and therefore know what in this collection, this Elsevier Science Direct eBooks Referex Miscellaneous, do I already have, and what do I not already have. Then we have various match methods: ISSN, ISBN, title, LCCN, and the 035. I actually like the title match method personally, but I know most people like to use the ISSN. We'll use the ISSN in our second example. This one here, I'm going to use the title. Sorry about that, wrong tabs. There we are. Now, to the person's question at the beginning who asked, are we talking about titles or also holdings? So this says include the date coverage in the comparison. So to answer your question from earlier, person, I'm keeping it anonymous, but person who asked it earlier, here's where we decide if we want also the holdings, the electronic holdings. Okay, so let's go check this one up. Check this one out. So we're going to click generate now. The generate runs the report. So we'll click generate. And now it's running. Now, those of you who have been in our other sessions, for example, physical holdings advanced search, physical items advanced search, and most recently the PO line task list, the new PO line task list. By the way, coming up in August, the resource sharing task list. This page that you're looking at now will look very familiar. This is part of the new user experience, a new user interface. You can see it already finished. Everything updates by itself and completed successfully. And then if we click on it, it opens up in two panes, pane, P-A-N-E, and not P-A-I-N, of course. And we can change around the panes and see all of what's on the right and all of not what's on the left. And I can play around here and say I want full page view, and I see the full page view, and I can go back to the split view, and I can drag to see more and less of each side. So that's just like we've seen for the advanced holding search, for the PO line task list search, and you'll see it more gradually throughout Alma. So what do we have here? There were 384 titles. Of those, 245 titles of the portfolio with no overlap. So it's 63.8%. This is a really nice, I know I'm biased, but we really did do a nice thing here. The way it's the absolute numbers, the percentage, and we're going to see in a minute that we can download the files as well. And here, I don't know if the colors are going through well on the WebEx, but you see the blue here is showing the 63.8% of the titles with no overlap. The green here is showing the 36.2%, which have overlap. In this case, they're all complete coverage overlap. All of them have complete coverage. There could have been a case, didn't happen in here, where it's the same title but a partial coverage overlap. Perhaps in the next example we'll see that as well. So immediately I see that if we purchase this electronic collection, I'll be getting 245 new titles. 139 of them I already have. It's definitely a consideration. Maybe I should look for another collection that I'd be getting more value, more unique titles for. Maybe not. Maybe these 63.8%, these 245 titles are very important. So I also see here how it was run. So I have all the history of how it was run. And from here, I can download the files. For example, if I want to see what are those unique titles of portfolios with no overlap, so I can click the arrow button here going down, and that's going to download a Excel sheet. Here it is. So now we have a list here of all of the titles which I would be getting new. They're unique. I don't already have these titles. Then we've also got titles of portfolio with complete coverage overlap. So these are titles which are in the electronic collection from the community zone that I'm considering purchasing. Let me close all my Excel so I make sure I get the new one here. These would be titles of portfolios with complete coverage overlap. These are titles I already have. If I purchase this from the community zone, I'd be getting duplicates. Okay, let's return for a moment to the PowerPoint, and then we're going to stop and see if there's questions. So we filled everything in. We clicked generate. The job completed. We saw the percentage and the absolute numbers of what I already own and what is unique. And that is called titles of portfolios with complete coverage overlap. Those are ones I already have. And we saw titles of portfolios with no overlap. Those are the unique ones I would be getting. We saw that when we look at the list of jobs that have run for the overlap analysis, we can see the specific parameters that we used. Then we downloaded the files, and then we saw the list of resources that were either overlap or unique. And now the institution needs to decide, what are they going to do here? Are those 245 unique titles so important that we're going to purchase them even though we're going to be getting a lot of overlap? Okay, I'm going to go to the chat here and see if there's any questions or comments on that. Let's take a look. Scrolling down. Okay, somebody says, are you normalizing the title in ISSN, ISBN info, i.e. authority title and associated ISBNs, ISSNs to ensure an accuracy of analysis? We are normalizing. In fact, if we go to this, let's take a look at the title simply because that was one I did here. You can see here, this was normalized by making everything lowercase and getting rid of any punctuation. This was PEM in the capitals and then with a slash. Just like we do in analytics, by the way, there's a normalized title in analytics. There's a lot of places all throughout Alma where things are normalized, and here you can see examples of how the title was normalized. If we have anything else here with abbreviations, which are all capitals, here again, or you can see here the slash at the end is removed. As far as the ISBNs and ISSNs, the 9 to 13 and 13 to 9 are also normalized. Someone says, can you see where the titles with complete coverage come from? I'm thinking about using this to see if this is a better package that allows the new and old titles and delete older packages. Let me put that into a larger document here so that everybody can see, because this one's a little longer than the other comments. So we'll put it here so we know what we're talking about. And again, it's all being anonymous, so say whatever you'd like. Can you see where the titles with complete coverage come from? Well, they're coming from whatever I chose as the source in the comparison. I chose a collection from the community zone, so they're coming from there. Oh, vendor-wise. Well, what vendor you're going to order it from is your decision. We know from the overlap analysis what collection that is in the community zone. Who you're going to exactly order it from, if that's what you mean by vendor and not platform, which you can also see in the community zone, but which actual vendor you're going to order it from, that's your decision. We know when we do the overlap what is the electronic collection we chose from the community zone. In this case, from the community zone. If that didn't answer your question, feel free to send in more. Someone says, for this first case, will that impact the final result if we select the whole IZ as a source? Let me get this one again. Let's take a look at this one. Just making a little divider here. Okay. For this first case, will that impact the final result if we select the whole institution zone as a source? Then the community zone collection from let's wait on that and see the other examples we'll do, and then come back if there's still a question, because we still have 2 more examples. Okay. Let's move on because we want to make sure we cover the other 2 examples here. Somebody does ask here, let's just include this one, then we're going to move on. So somebody asks here, is there a way to know the source for duplicate item? Name of EC, which I assume is the electronic collection. Is there name of the electronic collection where the title exists? Okay, I didn't show the entire file here. Let's go look at these files because that will answer the question. Somebody is asking, is there a way to know the source for the duplicate item? So I chose electronic collection from the community zone. I compared it with all of my institution zone, and now somebody's saying those duplicates which are in my institution, how do I know what electronic collection they belong to? I assume that's the question he or she means. Name of electronic collection where the title exists. So let's take a closer look at those files here. Just going to go into my downloads and with overlap. Okay, so what do we have in this file? We got the title, the identifier, and the next example we'll use the ISSN, and we'll see the ISSN in the file here. So it's always being compared with this one. This is the collection from the community zone. Then let's move on. I'm going to the right here. Portfolio ID of the source set. That's the source, the one we chose from the community zone. Then we have the ISBN, other identifiers. Here we are. So this is the collection. The person who asked the question, this is the answer. You can see what collection, what electronic collection the duplicate title belongs to right here in the Excel file that we downloaded. It's in the column called collection of the target set. This is where you can see it. Okay, you can also see the interface of the target and the portfolio ID, but let's go on and continue. So now we're going to look at use case 2. What was use case 2? A comparison of one electronic collection in the institution zone to all of the institution zone. And we said there's actually 2 flavors to this one. You can compare it, an electronic collection X that I have in the institution zone, I can compare it to all of the institution zone or to a subset of the institution zone. And we're going to compare it to all of the institution zone in this case. So let's say I've already purchased, in my institution, I already own the Taylor and Francis Library and Information Science collection. And I'm considering canceling this electronic collection. But before I cancel it, I want to check and see what will I be losing. Maybe much of this collection already exists in other electronic collections. And this time, we're going to match by the ISSN. And person who asked about normalizing the identifiers, we'll be able to see some examples there, perhaps, depending on which ones we got. Okay, so let's go on. So again, we're going to compare collections. We're going to give it a name. This time when we choose the collection source, we're going to choose from the institution zone, then we're going to compare it with the entire institution zone. Let's jump right in and do it. Okay, so here we are, new analysis. Let's actually go back as if we're starting brand new. So we want to access this, resources, advanced tools, overlap and collection analysis. And then we're going to do a new analysis, and we're going to choose to compare collections. Okay, so now this is going to be use case 2, morning use case 2, we'll call this. And description. We are considering canceling, boom, Taylor and Francis Library and Information Science collection. So now we're going to choose our source. Compare collections, or choose the collection source for which you want to evaluate the overlap. So we'll click there, and that will open up a search interface. We'll search for that interface, and note here, I'm choosing to search the institution zone. Last time I chose the community zone. This time we're doing the institution zone. We're doing the whole comparison now within the institution zone. Here it is. I can see it's linked to the community zone via this icon here, the people icon. However, I'm searching now in my institution. I'm not searching the community zone. And select. So now I've got my source collection. And what do I want to compare that with? I'm going to compare it with the entire institution zone. So I chose that last radio button there where it says entire institution zone. I could have compared it with selected collections from the institution, selected collections from the community zone, and entire institution zone. I chose these 3 specific use cases, by the way. First of all, I didn't want to choose more than 3 cases for 1 hour. And second of all, these were the most popular use cases brought up to us from the user group with whom we collaborated in this development. So it's actual ones. Okay, then we're going to choose the ISD match method. Here we'll choose the ISSN. If I was doing an ebook collection, I would choose the ISBN, of course, or stay with the title. This available for group, by the way, I didn't mention that earlier. Those are parameters used primarily by either multi-campus institutions or network zone institutions where they will have a collection and make it available for certain groups, which may be based on all different kinds of parameters. Those who use it know what I'm referring to. Those who don't use it or don't have a need for it, we're just skipping over the example there. But that's what it is. There's something called a valuable for, where I can say downtown campus has access to this, but the Jonestown or Smithtown campus doesn't have it. Or I can say an institution has it and another member institution doesn't if I'm a network zone consortia. Then we're including the date coverage, which is important because there might be, in the one I'm considering canceling, much more date coverage. They might have the same titles and I'll think, oh, it's a duplicate. But one might be like my example before, from 1947 to 1971 coverage, and one might be only from 1967 to 1973, for example. Less years. Okay, and now we'll generate. Okay, so it says here pending, which means it's still running. This 0 thing here in real time will update. I'm not even going to touch it. We'll see. There we go. You see, I didn't even touch it, and we see it went 100%. I didn't touch it again, and it automatically changed to completed successfully. I could have hit this refresh button at any time, but it automatically did it itself, as you saw. So now let's go take a look. I'm going to click it. By the way, we could also click this view report here, and that also brings us there. But what I did, I'm going to go back to the list view, is you can just click anywhere on it, and it opens up. Okay, so what do we got here? We got a total of 49 titles. Only 2 of them are titles with partial coverage overlap. And 47 of them have complete coverage overlap. So this is a nice example for the person who asked at the beginning, does this also include holdings? Let's take a look at these reports now. We're going to start with titles with a partial coverage overlap. So I'm downloading it and opening. Okay, what do we got here? The title, the ISSN which was used for matching, MMSID. These are titles in my institution, if you recall. This is the source set, and I want to get to the coverage part. By the way, person who asked about normalizing the identifiers, you can see we use the 12 and the ISSN, ISBN 10 and 13 get converted back and forth. And of course, when it's the indexing is done to compare the identifiers, the dash in the middle is removed. It's all normalized. And I want to get to the. Okay, we'll look at the second file in a moment, and that'll give us what we're looking for. So, like the other one, we've got the title, we've got the identifier. This is the one we searched as our source set, and here will be the collections that it's in my institution. So it's in 3 different collections in my institution. Let's go back to the beginning. I want to take this title. Community and junior college libraries. So here, let's say if someone were to search for this portfolio, so I see here that I have it. I've got 4 of them. One of them's from the source, and then the other 3, I'm going back to the Excel. Sorry for moving back and forth all the time, but I just want to show the actual example in Alma now. So these 3, it already exists in these 3, EBSCOhost, CCC Get It Now, and Scholars Portal. If I come back into Alma, here it is in the CCC Get It Now, here it is in the Scholars Portal, here it is in the EBSCOhost. And this is the one I searched for. This is my source, Taylor and Francis. So it's automatically telling me here that I have it. Now, by the way, this one is available from 1999, Volume 8, Issue 2. Now, it's a partial coverage overlap because the others have more. This is available from 1982 to 2017. So I would be missing some, even though I have the title. It's a partial coverage overlap because I would be missing everything from 1982 to 1999, for example, if I got rid of it. It's a partial coverage overlap. I see there was a question. I want to look at the second file first before I get to the questions, just to keep this flow going. By the way, the downloaded file also has a tab here with the analysis information, so I know how this was run. So if I downloaded this file and brought it to a meeting and discussed it with my colleagues, and I said, wait a minute, how did I make that file? All I have to do is come to the analysis tab. I don't have to go back into Alma and say, oh, that's the one I ran yesterday at 3 o'clock in the afternoon. Everything is in here, so we know exactly how this was made. Let's check now the other one. So I'm going to come back to the overlap and connection analysis. We got out of it because I wanted to do a search in Alma. Here's my morning case 2. And now we have titles of portfolios with complete coverage overlap. By the way, I would say this is definitely a candidate for possibly canceling, because 95.92% of all the titles have complete coverage overlap. Those two examples we saw now of partial coverage, same title but different year coverages. But this one here I'm going to download. These are complete coverage overlap. So that means it's in the Taylor and Francis Taylor and Francis Library and Information Science collection, and I have it in another collection, and same coverage, same year coverage. So all of these are duplicates. Okay, this would have been a nice example for a person who asked about the normalization. We would have seen the ampersand and the and get changed, but we'll save that for another time. Okay, so all of these, I don't think we need to talk more. It's pretty clear. These all have complete coverage overlap. So this one here, for example, the first one is in 4 different electronic collections, and it's in the Taylor and Francis Library and Information Science collection that I checked. Library Acquisitions, Practice and Theory. Sounds like an interesting title. So if I were to search for that one, we should see here that I've got it not only in the Taylor and Francis one, but also in other ones. So it's in the CCC Get It Now, it's in the Scholars Portal, it's in the Science Direct Elsevier, and in the Taylor and Francis one that I used as my source. And I can see those here. Let's go back to the names of the collections they were in. So all of these. Let's just take this Test C6 Science Direct. And when we came into Alma, we see that it's part of that Test C6 Science Direct. Here it is. Okay, by the way, you can also use this Excel on your own if for whatever reason you want a further filtering. It's a regular Excel sheet, and you can filter here wherever you want. For example, the is active. We saw that one of them that I was checking was not active, so you can get rid of the ones that are active or are not active. Okay, I'm going to return to the PowerPoint, make sure we covered everything on that use case, go to the questions, and then do use case 3. And I want to make sure we have enough time for use case 3. That's really the big one, actually. That's where we take the input file. Yep, we did everything here. We checked everything here. Okay, so let's go see the questions. I'm in the chat. Is it possible to add coverage details with an Excel sheet by modifying the report just for the ease of seeing all information in one place? Let me put that out into the big file and see if I understand the question. So this person, he or she is asking, is it possible to modify coverage? Once the Excel sheet is made, you can't change that Excel sheet. You can rerun the report, though, with different methods if you'd like. You can run these reports, by the way, all you want. They don't do any kind of data update in Alma, so you're not ruining anything. You're not changing anything. You can just keep running it millions of times and always be covered. Is there a way to display the results graphically in charts, graphs for reporting purposes? We have in the results here a little graph, but if you want to play around with that Excel sheet on your own, you're free to do it. The graph that we have is in the results here. There's a donut graph with a green and a blue showing what overlaps and what doesn't overlap. Could this technique of comparing a collection against the institution zone be used to look for overlap between electronic and physical holdings, or will it only compare electronic holdings? At the current time, it's only electronic holdings. There are tentative, possible, perhaps future plans to include the physical as well. Someone says, for this second case, if all the target portfolios are unavailable, will the report still show up as if it is complete coverage overlap? Yes, it will, but you can come here and filter out, playing with the Excel, the ones that are not active. Okay, I'm going to move on now because we have 11 minutes left, and I definitely want to show the one about the input files. Okay, so now we have a situation. The vendor comes and gives me a file, or I download a file from the vendor website, and I want to know from that file, what do I already have in my institution? So, let's take a look at a sample file that I just happen to have downloaded from the vendor site. And here's the example. Let me make sure all my Excels are closed. Okay, don't save that. All right, so this is the file, sample file that I downloaded from the vendor. Some of these I do have in my institution. Some of them I do not. I will already tell you in advance, I know I don't have these. These I made up myself. As you can see, the ISSNs is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 3, 4, 5, etc. Because I wanted to make sure I had examples of ones that I don't have. These are ones I do already have in my institution. I've got the ISSN and I've got the title. I need to have an identifier and a title. As far as exactly how should this file look, you can come here to the working with overlap and collection analysis, the screen that I pointed out before, which is linked directly from the Ex Libris Knowledge Days page. And here you've got a section on lookup titles reports. And here it tells you what can be in that input file. So I'm not going to go into the makeup of the input file now. It's all in here. Okay, so we got this file from the vendor. We want to know what in the file do we already have and what do we not already have. Here's my sample input file. This time we're going to do the new analysis and choose lookup titles. In both of the previous cases, we did compare collections. Now we're doing lookup titles. We'll give it a name. We'll get our file. It's basically like the previous ones, except instead of going to the community zone or institution zone to choose my source, I'll go to my PC and get a file. So let's do that without further ado. Okay, so we'll add a new analysis, and this time we're choosing lookup titles. Okay, so this is going to be morning use case 3. And the description will be vendor, that's my vendor code, gave us a file and we check what do we already have. Okay, select or drag an Excel file. So I'll just click there and select a file. Let me go to my location here, and here it is. It's already open. Let me close it there. Okay. Nice. All right, so now I've chosen my input file. What do I want to compare it to? I'm going to compare it to Institution Zone Electronic Resources. Choose the report output format. One Excel line per match or one Excel line per identifier from the input file. Rather than explaining this, the best way to do it is to run it both ways, but I will explain it anyway. When there's a match, you'll have one line. If you noticed on what we've been doing so far, there will be one line and then several identifiers. Do you want those on separate rows or on the same rows? Let me show you what we mean here. If I look at any of these, okay, so here I've got 2 identifiers on one row. Do I want those separated or on the same row? That's what it means there. Back to here, and we're ready to run it. I want to make sure I run this because we've only got 7 minutes left. Generate. So while that's running, let's go to the PowerPoint and see what we're going to see. So it'll tell us what matched, what did not match, what do I have in my institution, what do I not have in my institution. Then the output file is going to have 4 different tabs. One's with a single match, one's with a multi-match, one's with no match, and then like all of the results that we've seen so far, there will be a tab with the analysis information as well. So we'll know exactly how we ran the report without needing to go back into Alma and check, oh, I ran this yesterday at 3 o'clock, let me go check. And it's probably done already, so let's go take a look. And here we are. So it says completed successfully. Let's go take a look at it. Let's download the file. And let's open her up. Open. Okay. So these are the single match. So it was in the input file, and it's in Alma with 1 match. So if I were to take this identifier, for example, and search for this now in Alma, then I get 1 match. 1 of 1. It's in my input file, and it's here. Let me show the input file just so everybody, I know you all believe me, but I want to complete the whole picture here. So this is my input file. And I'm going to open it with Notepad. Oh, that's not good. I'll open it with, I want it to open as a CSV. I'll go this way. I'll get two Excels open. I'm going to close this one and open the other one. Okay. So this one was in the input file, Control F, Control V. But 2213, this one here. This is the one with the input file. I was searching without the dash, that's why I didn't find it. So it's in the input file and it's a single match in Alma. Let's continue. Downloads. So that's the single match. Then we have the multi-match. So these, here you can see, each line, there's a separate line for each of them. So this one here is a multi-match. It's in the input file, and there's a multi-match. It exists multiple times inside Alma. 22490213. So if we were to come into Alma, 22490213, we'll see if I remembered that correctly. There we go. International Research Journal and Library of Information Science exists 3 times. Then we have ones with no match. So these are in the input file. ISSN 1234567 Library Science Monthly. It's in the input file. It's not in Alma. Here it is in the input file, and it's not in Alma. If I would go search for 1234567 as an ISSN in Alma, I won't find it. Just to confirm that, no. That's the no match. So we saw ones with a single match, ones with a multi-match, ones with no match, and we have the analysis information, and we have 1.5 minutes left. So we did cover everything, but let me go look at the chat. I don't see anything on this third use case in the chat. Are there any questions on this third use case? This one is, like I said at the beginning, people have been wanting this one really since the beginning of Alma, and now we got it. There used to be ways to kind of do it using analytics and other methods, but now you can see you can really take a file, upload it, and you get an organized result. What's nice about this feature is not just what it does, the whole interface is very intuitive and user-friendly. The output files are very nice, very clear. They can be further manipulated because it's an Excel. It's got the analysis information in there, so it's good. Okay, someone asked for the third case, if there are date coverage in the vendors list, will that compare the coverage as well? No. The input file method does not compare the coverage. Okay, so that brings us to a close. Thank you everybody for joining. We will be posting this recording. The recording will be on our education and webinars page. It will be on the YouTube, and I'll be sending out a notification to the Alma list. So thanks again, and we hope to see you in all of our next sessions. Have a nice day.